You're watching the Sporting Time Show with host Doug Thompson. Sponsored by Jewelry Barn and Pawn Shop.
Welcome into the Sporting Time Show. I am Doug Thompson. Alongside of me, Brandon Phillips.
It's good to be back.
A familiar face.
Yes, starting to become a familiar face.
It's good to have you back. Joe is on special assignment, and he will be for a while.
You give him a lot of those.
Well, he does so much for us. He does play-by-play for the Purples.
That's right.
He does. He's the host of the podcast, but his time is limited.
That's right. Only so much.
But you know, we have A teams and we have A teams, and we got our other A team in here
I'm
today.
excited to be here. I feel like, much like high school sports week to week, they never know if they're going to play or not. I kind of feel that's my invitation here. It may or may not be there the next week, so I take advantage every time I'm given the opportunity to compete.
Well, I am so glad, and you and I communicate well in advance of this show.
Which is new
it's
for
new.
us.
But, you know, you talk about games and not knowing if you're going to have a game or what the schedule is going to be like. 2 weeks ago, Brandon, there were 10 cancellations throughout the state for high school football. 10. Last week, there was 20. So obviously the trend is not going the way that we want it.
Correct.
However, you know, you have to be thankful that we are playing, and they're making every opportunity that if there is an issue, that the game is just canceled. That's it.
Well, I would say, as it pertains to head coaches and athletic directors moving past 2020, 2021, scheduling will seem a lot easier. Because obviously there's always a challenge when it comes to scheduling teams when you're coordinating who's open, who's available, who can travel, who can, and all the things that are associated with that. Sometimes schedules are done 2, 3, 4 years in advance. Now you're literally having to change them on Thursday and figure out how to make that work. So I think by that comparison moving forward, athletic directors are going to say, hey, not that it's ever easy, but it just got a lot easier when we don't have to change plans midweek, which at this point, if you're not able and willing and ready to do that, which all of the ADs and coaches are, you could go a week, sometimes 2 weeks, and maybe not play a game. And right now you want to get as many as you can. Well,
last week I was actually on my way to a game, and between the office and the field, the game had been canceled.
I know.
So sometimes they have absolutely no heads up that something was going to happen. But the games that I've been at, they're taking your temperature before you get in. You fill out a card.
Tracing form.
Yeah. So it is what it is. Everybody is doing whatever they can do to make this thing happen. And, you know, I started to go back and look at our teams locally, Brandon. And, you know, Allen County, Scottsville, they've had 2 consecutive weeks where they haven't played because of COVID-19. Their record is 2-1 at the time of our show. And you just kind of wonder, how does that affect the kids, you know, as far as timing goes? We know what happens when you are out for fall break for 1 week, but when you've got 2 weeks off, you know, and the other teams are playing, you know, it can create confusion.
Well, the thing that's interesting to me, and you're seeing this in the NFL as well, is, you know, not that all sports do not require preparation and game prep and scouting, right? You're always trying to figure out how to scheme and how to prepare for your opponent. With that being said, football is one that really has a cadence or a rhythm that's week to week. Sometimes you're looking 2 weeks out at an opponent depending on who it is, but certainly the week before you're installing, you're preparing, here's the keys and here's what we're going to look for. But now when you change opponents midweek, it's almost like you know, like a baseball game, you know, where you can play double headers. I mean, you just go out and play baseball. Not that there's not strategy, but football is so different. And now you think, hey, we're going to play someone on Friday. Now we're playing someone totally different. There's really not much preparation. It's just go out and do what you do best and see who comes out, you know, on top at the end.
Yeah, and at this point, coaches, if they have a week's notice or 4 days' notice, they're like calling people, can we get a game?
Right.
And a lot of times it's not happening just because it's just hard to schedule.
Well, and I think, you know, and there's pros and cons to social media. I really enjoy Twitter for sports, and I think the thing that's interesting is starting to see some of the banter between coaches and media, not in a negative way, but just kind of the funny stuff that's going out there. It's almost like, I think I saw someone recommend you need like a dating app to match high school football teams so they can play that week.
Yeah, well.
Swipe right, he's available. All right, we're going to go to, you know, we're going to E-Town. So whatever we need to do to play.
Well, we might need that. Hopefully.
The Sporting Times game matching app.
That's a good idea. Don't tell anybody. There are a couple of games I do want to mention that has happened. Of course, Franklin Simpson had a cancellation. a couple weeks ago. Logan County has had 2 cancellations. Russellville had a big win against Edmonson County. They're 2-2 on the season. Barron County, how about the Trojans? I believe they pick up their first 6A district game win against Central Hardin.
1-point win against Central Hardin. That's a good one.
That's really, really impressive. But we're going to take a short break. When we come back, William Howard, the head coach of the Greenwood Gators, joins us right here on WNKY NBC 40. Welcome back to the show. Joining us now is the head football coach for the Greenwood Gators, Coach William Howard. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I've been fortunate enough to watch every single one of your games this year, and as we were taping this show, you were currently undefeated. Of course, we're not going to have your South Warren game results, but Coach, if you were to summarize kind of how your team has been playing from week in to week out, how would you do that?
Well, you know, they played resiliently, I guess would be the best word that I can use. You know, it's kind of like last year, and we were in a lot of situations where we had close games that went down to the wire, and, you know, some of them we pulled out and some of them we didn't. It seemed like this year they've always found a way to bring it out in the fourth quarter.
You know, one of the things that I've noticed is that whether it's defensively or offensively, guys are picking each other up. You know, you may have a couple defensive players that have huge games, and the next week they have good games, but a couple other players have huge games. And it's the same way offensively. If it's not David Odom getting it done like he did the week before, he's doing his job, but it might be Sebastian Conwell who comes through with a big game that week. Just kind of talk about how these guys are being able to make it happen every week.
Well, you know, I think the main thing is we just have a bunch of blue-collar kids that go out there and play hard every week, and you know, they're very unselfish. They, you know, whatever their role is for that week, they accept it, and they do it for the greater good of the team. And, you know, it's just a great group of kids to be around.
One of the things I like to focus on, being an old offensive lineman, is linemen. I like to watch how they block and how they carry out their task. And you've got some big ones up front, defensively, offensively, and they just seem like they're getting better every single week. Talk a little bit about the seniors that you have and those guys that are getting the job done.
Well, we're fortunate enough, I guess, with our offense and defensive line, we don't have a lot of kids that go both ways. So, you know, they can focus on one side of the ball. We don't have a lot of depth, but the players that we have, you know, they get the majority of the snaps at offense or defense. But, you know, that's kind of good for a big kid whenever he doesn't have to play on both sides of the ball and he can get a break in between each one of them. And I think they've gotten better from week to week, especially offensive line, because we had a long way to go. You know, most of our defensive linemen, they're pretty seasoned. They've been playing for a couple of years, but our offensive line, other than Logan Hunt, was basically new to high school football on Friday night.
Yeah, and you know, we talked before we went on air about, you know, every single game is a blessing to be able to play, especially if you're a senior this year. And just, you know, we've been so impressed with the way the coaches have gone about their business and the players have done what they need to do to make sure they're able to play high school football. Just kind of talk a little bit about their commitment to making sure that they can play every Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that nobody's ever been through before. You know, you got to come in and get your temperature checked. You got to wear your mask. You got to do all these protocols and making sure that you're social distancing. So if something were to happen to one of our kids or somebody else in school, then it doesn't affect the team. You know, it's just it's something that's just piled on top of it, and it seems like every week what we have to do changes, and the protocol changes, and the regulations change, and we're just trying to do the best we can.
It's been a crazy year, and you know, I do want to ask you. I learned that you're an old Patriot, not an old Patriot, but you used to play for Allen County. And you played for WKU in your college years. Where did you get your inspiration to become a coach? What was it that, you know, you said, hey, I want to get out there and work an extra 40 hours a week to coach?
Well, you know, I guess the main thing is just knowing what it did for me as an individual, you know, as far as being able to to find something to dedicate yourself to and to make yourself better, and something that you worked hard for, and something that you had to make sure your grades were up, or make sure that you stayed out of trouble, or you did the right thing because you didn't want to jeopardize yourself, or you didn't want to jeopardize your teammates. And I just love the aspect of that, and I will hopefully instill that into my kids and the players that we have. And you know, I just know what it did for me personally, and I want to be able to share that with young men.
Well, Coach, you've been doing it since 1995. We certainly enjoy watching your teams and you coach, and thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully you'll come back.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, be safe, Coach. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, more of the Sporting Times as we recap the Leachman Buick GMC Cadillac State Golf Championships right here.
You're watching the Sporting Time Show with host Doug Thompson. Sponsored by Jewelry Barn and Pawn Shop. Like us on Facebook and follow ST on Twitter.
The Leachman Buick GMC Cadillac Boys and Girls State Golf Championships just recently finished up, and Brandon, kind of fill us in on how the guys tournament went.
Yeah, so Jay Nemo from Marshall County, of course, was your winner. He wins in a one-hole playoff. Local finishers of interest, which I know we want to hear. Bowling Green's Charlie Reber fires a 1-over par 73 in the second round. He finishes in 8th place, so top 10. Greenwood's Jacob Lang, that's a name we know, shoots even par 72 on day 2 to finish tied for 10th. Franklin Simpson Jr. Chase Wilson finished tied for 32nd. Teammate Dalton Fivish finishes tied for 35, and Greenwood's Michael Lang also tied for 35th. Greenwood as a team placed 4th overall, and Doug, why don't you give us the ladies?
Well, I'll tell you what, I had an opportunity to catch up with Faith Martin, the senior at South Warren, and also the champion of the Leachman Buick, Macy Brown from Apollo. This is what they had to say. All right, Faith, well, congratulations. You finished your senior year, and that was a huge par putt, which you didn't know at the time, which gave you guys the runner-up for the state. As a team, just kind of talk a little bit about the putt and the fact that you're runner-up in the Leachman Buick GMC State Championships.
Well, Coach came up to me and he said, we're one behind LCA and Sacred Heart. So if you get the par, and if they bogey, then we're tied with them. So he put a lot of pressure. He said, no pressure. That's how he ended the sentence. So I knew I had to make par and get up and down. And so that putt was huge, but I just tried to zone everything out and focus solely on the putt.
Well, the second shot you had on this par 5 was really nice because it put you in really nice position, and just kind of talk about being out of position on the drive a little bit, and what kind of pressure that's like.
The drive was definitely out of position. Yesterday I was way left, and so I had that in the back of my mind, and I think that's why I missed it on the right side. And you definitely do not want to miss on the right side on this hole. And it was a really tough punch. I was on an uphill slope, and it was buried in the rough, and I had to get under a tree. So I had to get up and over the sand while still keeping the shot low under the tree.
Well, you know, I want to mention to you, and you probably don't know this, but there's only been a handful of female athletes that have qualified for this Leachman Buick as much as you have. Emma Talley, Lydia Gum, Faith Martin. I mean, there's not many. What does it mean to you, the fact that you have played this championship so many years, and you're among an elite group of female golfers?
It does mean a lot to be in that group with Emma and Lydia, especially because I've always looked up to them. I remember when I was little, I would come out here and watch them play at the state tournament. So that's pretty nice. I feel like I'm in good company.
You are. Congratulations on a great career at South Warren and before South Warren. And now you can turn in your black and the gray and put a little red on, and we'll see you as a Hilltopper.
That's right.
Thank you,
Thank
Faye.
you.
Congratulations on everything.
I appreciate it.
All right, I'm here with Macy Brown, Junior Apollo, 2020 Leachman Buick GMC Cadillac State Champion. How's that sound?
I don't know. I don't have any feelings right now. I'm shocked. Like, I'm completely shocked. Elizabeth played great, and I thought that hole was going to be a lot tougher than what it turned out to be. So I don't don't know what to say. I'm kind of speechless.
You played really solid for 2 straight days, and you come into this playoff. What was your mindset teeing off on 18 during the playoff?
Most of it was just focus on myself, focus on my game, hit it like you're at the range. So don't change anything, it's just little stuff like that.
Coming in this morning, what was your mindset? Was it the same kind of thing, just get out here, and the weather was different? Did you think about that? Did you change your game plan at all?
I did not change my game plan at all, Go out there, focus on myself, one shot at a time, one hole at a time. And, the weather was what it is. I knew everybody had to play in it, so we just went out there and tried to play our best.
So who was more excited, your coach, your dad, or you?
Well, I think my coach and my dad show more emotion than I did, because right now I don't know. I'm shocked. I don't know what to say.
Well, congratulations. Great champion, and enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Brandon, Macy Brown, the junior from Apollo, she won in a one-hole playoff to take the state championship, the Leachman Buick. What an exciting time. And Faith Martin, one of the most decorated golfers. I believe she's qualified 6 times.
Crazy.
For the Leachman Buick, finishes 6th place. Senior Abby Lee from Glasgow finishes 10th. Emma Harmon finishes 15th. South Warren Seniors McKenna Stahl finishes 13th. Glasgow's Nina McMurtry finished tied 21st. And how about those Lady Spartans? They take 2nd place as a team with the final putt from Faith Martin that solidified that 2nd place. Congratulations, South Warren Lady Spartans. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Doug Thompson, Brandon Phillips. Every week, Brandon and I, or Joe and I, get to pick a player of the week offensively and a player of the week defensively. This week, we had to go with 2 offensive players of the week.
Too close.
Brandon, I couldn't decide. You couldn't decide. We went with 1 defensive player of the week. Let's start it off.
Okay.
With Russellville's junior running back, Javari Gamble, 13 carries for 228 yards and 3 scores. That's getting it done.
Sounds like my entire high school career, all in one game. So
4 years.
Congratulations. Very, very worthy of this honor, giving that reality. Yes, he had a great game.
I love the Panthers. They are so tough. They just find a way to win, and so far they're having a good season.
Well, and I would say going back when we used to do a lot of the football games together, and we were watching a lot of these games, just getting to go everywhere. Yeah. Russellville and Edmonson County historically seem like they always have really good games. They've had some freak endings in some of those games on like a kick that was a block kick that wasn't dead, and they ran. So a lot of crazy stuff happens. Those games are always exciting. They should start playing maybe twice a year. They can start the season and end the season and do a 2-game series because it's always worth the price of admission.
Well, this year could be one of those
years,
right? But for Javari for the season, 422 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he got all his touchdowns in that one game. Congratulations to him. Here's another offensive player of the week, and man, what a performance by senior Javius Button. Mm-hmm. 175 yards rushing on 25 attempts. How many touchdowns, Brandon?
1, 2, 4. 4 touchdowns.
That's 20. First of all, Coach Seabolt, the offensive coordinator, 25 attempts. He's really on the back of Mr. Button getting that job done.
Yes,
what a great win for them. But man, 175 yards, 4 touchdowns. What a great outing.
That statistic reminds you of the Bowling Green offense from the early 90s. Yeah. Probably not what you're used to seeing now. Offensively, they're still very balanced in terms of how much they run and pass the ball. But obviously, against some Kraken, they were going to feed that beast and just let him keep going because he was having an incredible night. Bowling Green trailed early in that game. And then once they started riding that train, things turned around.
Javius has 452 yards on the season, just a handful of games.
Yep.
He averages 113 yards per game.
Yeah, and they've played a very difficult schedule.
They have.
So there haven't been any of those games where, you can hand it to him and in 10 carries he'll have 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. These have been really good teams, really good defenses, and he's still putting up production, which says something about the offensive line and how hard he's running the ball.
And he's also has 9 touchdowns on a season, so he's racking them up.
It's about 3 times what I had as a high school player.
Last but not least, we've got to go to our Defensive Player of the Week. And Brandon, we're going to go back to Russellville.
That's right.
And talk about Panther, Russellville senior Chavis Elliott. Here's the interesting thing about his stat. 13 solo tackles, 1 assist.
Yeah.
And he also had 5 tackles for loss, which is really impressive. For the season, 35 solo tackles, 3 assisted, and 3 interceptions.
Yeah, no surprise. He is the leading tackler for Russellville. Obviously had a phenomenal game. He's having a really good season. Of course, Russellville has been fortunate that they've played 4 games. I think Greenwood's had 5. You know, some teams have played 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So getting the extra reps, getting the opportunity to play, I'm sure helps. But that is a statistic that we start to see more and more with some of these defensive players is solo tackles. You know, you see, hey, they've got 40 tackles and 30 of them are solo. You know they're getting good reads, they're making good plays, and obviously the D-line and others are around them are doing their jobs to allow them to do that.
And one other thing about a 1A school like Russellville is the fact that they don't have the depth
Right.
Of some of these larger schools. They're a small school, so all their guys, for the most part, play both ways.
That's right.
So it's extra effort every single game. So congratulations to all of our players of the week. And
3 very worthy candidates.
yeah, and isn't it fun for us to kind of go back and look at the stats and see what was happening and look at, I'm telling you right now, we are going to have a lineman as a player of the week.
I'm waiting.
We're gonna, and almost this week I pulled the trigger. I saw some great linemen play this week, but I can't be everywhere at the same time.
I think you should base it on pancake blocks. We need to talk to the coaches or someone with the schools to make sure they're tracking that for us. And I think you should give them a big old thing of syrup for recognition of whoever that offensive player of the week who just so happens to be a lineman. He should get some syrup to go with it.
And some pancake mix.
And some pancakes,
I mean,
too.
let's go all the way if
Why
we're going
not?
to do it, Brandon.
Why
not
not?
halfway, but you know what? What a great show today. I want to thank Coach William Howard for coming in and spending a few minutes with us. And, you know, many more shows with a bunch of great coaches coming up. So keep it right here on WNKY NBC 40 every Saturday at 6 p.m. Have a great week. And for Doug Thompson,
Brandon Phillips.
we will see you Saturday night.